He thought his past was buried forever, until he ran into his first love and saw two little boys with his eyes staring back at him. What will he do when he discovers the sons he never knew existed? Stick around until the end to see if love can heal years of lies and heartbreak. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that will touch your heart. Ethan Cole was a busy man. He was the CEO of a big company, always working, always serious. He wore expensive suits, took important phone calls, and lived in a shiny apartment in the city. People called him cold, but he didn't care. He believed feelings only got in the way of success. One day, Ethan had a meeting in a small town he hadn't visited in years. After the meeting, he stopped by a cozy cafe on the corner of Main Street to grab a coffee. He stepped inside, the warm smell of baked bread filling the air. The place felt strangely familiar. As he waited for his coffee, he noticed a woman sitting near the window. She had soft brown hair, gentle eyes, and a tired but kind smile. His heart stopped. It was Emily, the woman he had once loved more than anything. The woman he thought he'd never see again. Memories rushed back, their long walks by the lake, quiet talks under the stars, and the way she used to laugh at his bad jokes. But something else caught his eye. Two small boys playing by Emily's table. They were about 5 years old, with dark hair and eyes that looked exactly like his own. Ethan stood frozen, the noise of the cafe fading around him. His heart pounded in his chest. Could these boys really be his? Why hadn't Emily told him? Emily looked up and their eyes met. She gasped, nearly dropping her cup. The color drained from her face. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The cafe was filled with quiet music and people chatting, but all Ethan could hear was the sound of his own heartbeat. He knew right then that his life was about to change forever. Emily's hands shook as she tried to calm herself. She hadn't seen Ethan in years. She never expected to run into him like this, in the small cafe where she brought her boys every Saturday morning. The two little boys, Liam and Lucas, were laughing as they played with toy cars on the table. They were full of energy, giggling loudly. One of them dropped a toy, and it rolled across the floor, stopping near Ethan's shiny black shoes. Ethan bent down and picked up the toy car. When he looked up, he saw two little faces staring at him with wide eyes. His heart almost stopped. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. These boys had his hair, his deep brown eyes, even the same dimple in their chins he saw every morning in the mirror. It felt like he was looking at tiny versions of himself. Emily quickly stood up, reaching for her sons. "Boys, come here," she said, her voice tight. Liam looked at Ethan curiously. "Mommy, who's that man?" he asked with a small, innocent voice. Emily's eyes darted from Ethan to her sons. He's just an old friend," she stammered, pulling them close. But Ethan couldn't look away. Questions burned in his mind. "Old friend, these boys look exactly like me. How could she hide them from me?" His heart twisted with anger, shock, and a strange spark of hope. He opened his mouth, but the words felt heavy. He couldn't tear his eyes from the twins, their matching smiles, their curious stares. Emily could see the storm in Ethan's eyes. She grabbed her purse with shaking hands. "Come on, boys, we need to go," she said quickly. As Emily hurried them toward the door, Ethan stepped forward, his voice low but urgent. "Emily, are they mine?" he asked, almost whispering. Emily paused at the door, her back still to him. Her shoulders trembled, but she didn't turn around. She pushed the door open and disappeared into the street with the twins, leaving Ethan frozen in the middle of the cafe, his world spinning. Ethan rushed out of the cafe, the door slamming shut behind him. He scanned the busy street until he spotted Emily holding the twins' hands as they hurried down the sidewalk. His heart pounded like a drum. He couldn't let her walk away, not now. Not after what he'd just seen. "Emily," he called out, his voice louder than he expected. She froze. Slowly, she turned to face him. Her eyes were wide and frightened, but she stood tall, trying to look strong for the boys clinging to her skirt. Ethan walked up to them, his steps quick and tense. "Emily, we need to talk," he said firmly, his eyes flicking to the boys, who looked up at him with innocent curiosity. "There's nothing to say," Emily replied, her voice shaking even though she tried to sound calm. "Please, Ethan, just go." But Ethan couldn't. His eyes burned into hers. "Don't lie to me. Are they my sons?" he asked, his voice raw with pain and anger. Emily swallowed hard, her eyes darting to the boys. Liam and Lucas looked confused, glancing between their mother and the tall stranger. Emily knelt down, brushing their hair from their faces. "Go stand by that bench for a minute." "Okay," she said gently. "Mommy just needs to talk." The twins hesitated, but she gave them a reassuring nod. They walked to the nearby bench. sitting close together with their small hands gripping each other. Emily stood and faced Ethan, tears welling in her eyes. "Why now, Ethan? Why are you here?" she whispered. "Because I just found out I might have children I never knew about." He shot back, his voice rising. "How could you hide them from me? Emily, how could you take them away?" Emily shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I didn't want to, but after what your father did to us, the threats, the lies, I had to protect them. I had no choice." Ethan felt the breath leave his lungs. Memories of his father's cold voice and harsh words flooded back. He remembered the day Emily disappeared, and how his father told him she left because she never loved him. Was it all a lie? "I would have been there," Ethan said softly, his voice breaking. "I would have loved you, I would have loved them." Emily's lips trembled. She looked at him with eyes full of hurt. "I know," she whispered, "but I was so scared." They stood in the middle of the sidewalk, the world around them rushing by, cars honking, people chatting, but for a moment, it felt like they were the only two people in the world. Two broken hearts facing the truth neither of them wanted to admit. Emily and Ethan sat on a quiet park bench near the cafe, the twins playing on the swings nearby, their laughter drifting on the breeze. Ethan kept glancing at the boys, each glance twisting his heart with wonder and regret. He needed answers, and Emily knew it was finally time to tell him the truth. She took a deep breath. "Do you remember the night I left?" She began, her voice soft but full of pain. Ethan nodded slowly, memories flooding back. The shouting match with his father, the stormy night, the empty apartment the next morning. He had been crushed, believing Emily had abandoned him. Emily looked at the ground, tears gathering in her eyes. "I didn't leave because I wanted to. Ethan, your father came to my tiny apartment. He told me I was ruining your life, that you'd lose everything if you stayed with me. He offered me money to disappear." Ethan clenched his fists, rage bubbling in his chest. "He what?" he growled, his jaw tightening. Emily wiped a tear with the back of her hand. "I refused the money. But then he threatened to ruin me. He said he'd make sure no one would hire me, that he'd destroy any chance I had to build a life for myself. And when I found out I was pregnant, I knew I had to protect the babies. I couldn't let them grow up around people like your father." Ethan shook his head, the betrayal of his father's actions hitting him like a punch to the gut. "He lied to me. He told me you ran off with someone else. He said you only loved my money." Emily's eyes snapped up, wide with shock and sorrow. "No, I never wanted your money. Ethan, I just wanted you," she whispered. For a moment, silence fell between them. Only the sound of the twins' giggles and the rustling leaves filled the air. Ethan stared at Emily, seeing the pain she'd carried alone for years. He realized she had sacrificed everything to protect their children. Finally, Ethan reached for Emily's hand. She hesitated, then let him hold it. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice low and hoarse. "I'm sorry I didn't fight harder. I'm sorry I believed him." Emily's tears spilled freely now. "I thought about you every day," she confessed. "I hated myself for leaving, but I didn't know what else to do." As they sat together in the soft afternoon light, old wounds began to open, but for the first time, they also began to heal. Ethan knew the past had stolen years from them, but in that moment, he also knew he couldn't let it steal their future. After hearing the truth from Emily, Ethan's mind was a storm. He couldn't sleep that night. He kept pacing his hotel room, staring out the window at the quiet streets below. His heart ached every time he thought about the twins' little faces, so familiar, so innocent. But doubt clawed at him. What if I'm wrong? What if they aren't mine? He wondered. He thought of Emily's words, the pain in her eyes. But fear whispered that he might be a fool to believe it all. The next morning, he called his best friend and lawyer. Marcus was blunt but loyal, the one person Ethan trusted completely. "Ethan, you need proof," Marcus said over the phone. "You've built your whole life on facts. Don't let your emotions blind you now. Get a paternity test, then you'll know." Ethan sighed heavily. He knew Marcus was right, but the thought of asking Emily for a DNA test felt cold, almost cruel. He remembered the look on the twins' faces, how they smiled at him like they'd known him forever. Later that day, Ethan found himself parked outside Emily's small house. He watched through the window as Liam and Lucas chased each other in the yard, their laughter echoing in the quiet neighborhood. They looked so happy, so loved. Ethan felt a strange mix of pride and sadness. He wondered what their first words had been, who they wanted to be when they grew up, what songs Emily sang to them at bedtime, questions he should have been there to answer. As he sat there, memories of his father's lies haunted him. "Am I really any better if I don't find the truth?" he asked himself. That evening he called Emily and asked to meet at the cafe. When she arrived, he noticed her eyes were tired, her smile wary. Emily, he began softly, his voice unsure for the first time in years. I need to know for sure. Not because I don't trust you, but because I can't bear the thought of being wrong. Will you let me take a paternity test? Emily's eyes filled with tears. For a moment, Ethan feared she would refuse. But she nodded slowly, brushing a tear from her cheek. I understand, she whispered. I want you to know the truth, too. Ethan reached across the table, taking her hand gently. No matter what the test says. Emily, I don't want to lose you again. For the first time, Ethan began to see what he had missed. Emily agreed to let him spend time with the twins while they waited for the paternity test results. So Ethan started visiting Emily's house every afternoon, nervous but determined to know his sons. He arrived one day with a baseball glove and ball. The boys' eyes lit up when they saw them. Do you want to play catch? Ethan asked, his voice gentle but full of hope. Liam and Lucas looked at each other, then back at him, excitement shining in their eyes. Yes, they shouted together. They ran to the small park near Emily's house. The boys laughed as they chased after the ball, and Ethan found himself laughing too, something he hadn't done in years, each time they called out. Throw it here or I got it. He felt his heart swell with joy and sadness for the moments he had missed. He also saw how amazing Emily was as a mother. She knelt beside the boys when they fell, kissed their scraped knees, and cheered when they did something brave. She had taught them kindness, patience, and courage, things Ethan admired more than all the success he had ever achieved. One evening, he stayed for dinner. The boys showed him their drawings on the fridge, stick figures of themselves with their mommy, and, recently, a new one with a tall man beside them. It took his breath away. Is that me? Ethan asked softly. Lucas nodded shyly. Yeah, Mommy said you're her friend, but we think you're like a superhero. He whispered, his big eyes serious. Ethan's heart twisted. He reached out, ruffling Lucas's hair. Thank you. That means a lot, he said, his voice thick. Later, after the boys went to bed, Ethan found Emily sitting alone in the living room. Folding small clothes, he watched her quietly, seeing the tired lines on her face, the strength in her eyes. You've done an incredible job. Emily, he said softly. She looked up. Surprised, they're kind, smart, and brave, that's because of you. Emily's eyes shimmered with tears, but she smiled. I did my best. She whispered, they deserved the best. That night, Ethan realized just how much he wanted to be part of their world, not just as a visitor, but as their father. Days passed slowly as they waited for the paternity test results. Each morning, Ethan woke up hoping for a call, his heart pounding with fear and hope. He kept busy with work, but his mind was always on Emily and the boys. One afternoon, Marcus called. Ethan, he said in a serious voice. I looked into the boys' birth certificates. Their birth dates match exactly 9 months after you and Emily last saw each other. I also checked hospital records. Emily listed the father as unknown, but gave the twins your last name as their middle name. Ethan's breath caught. She gave them my name. He thought, his chest aching. Even when she had no one, Emily had wanted the boys to carry a piece of him. Later that evening, Ethan drove to Emily's house. As he pulled up, he saw her sitting on the porch, watching the boys play with sticks in the yard, pretending they were swords. The sunset painted the sky in soft oranges and pinks. Ethan got out of the car and walked up the path. His heart in his throat. Emily looked up. Eyes wary. Do you have news? She asked quietly. He nodded. I spoke to my lawyer. The timelines match perfectly. Emily, and you gave them my name. Why didn't you tell me sooner? His voice cracked on the last word. Emily looked away, tears welling in her eyes. I wanted to, Ethan, she whispered. Every day I thought about picking up the phone, but I was scared. I thought your father would hurt them like he hurt us. Ethan knelt in front of her, his eyes pleading. Emily, I'm not that man's son anymore. I'm my own person, and I want to be there for them. For you. The boys came running up, laughing breathlessly. Liam looked at Ethan with bright eyes. Can you play pirates with us? He asked eagerly. Ethan looked at Emily, who hesitated, then nodded softly. He smiled, picking up a stick. Of course. Captain, he said, standing tall with a playful grin. As they ran around the yard together, Emily watched them with tears streaming down her face. It was the first time in years she felt like they could truly be a family, and that maybe, just maybe, they deserved a second chance. The next day, the paternity test results arrived. Ethan's hands shook as he opened the envelope in his car outside Emily's house. His heart almost stopped when he read the words, probability of paternity, 99.99%. They were his sons, there was no more doubt. He stepped out of the car, gripping the papers tightly. Emily opened the door before he could knock. As if she had been waiting, their eyes met. full of unspoken fear and hope. "They're mine," Ethan said quietly. Holding up the test results, his voice trembled. "They're really mine." Emily's eyes filled with tears. She leaned against the doorframe, her knees weak. "I know," she whispered. "I always knew." Ethan stepped closer. "Then why didn't you tell me?" His voice rose, thick with emotion. "We lost years, Emily, years I can't get back." Her tears spilled over. "I was afraid." "Ethan," she said, her voice breaking. "Afraid your father would find us. Afraid he'd take them from me. I thought I was protecting them, and you." Ethan's anger melted into sorrow. He reached out, gently cupping her face. "I would have protected you all. I would have given everything." Emily sobbed, resting her forehead against his chest. "I missed you every day," she whispered, "but I didn't know how to come back." He held her tightly, as if afraid she'd disappear again. "I missed you too," he said hoarsely, "and I don't want to miss another day." Just then, the twins came running out of the house. They stopped at the top of the porch steps, eyes wide as they watched their mommy crying in the arms of the man who looked like them. "Mommy," Liam asked softly, his little voice full of worry, "are you okay?" Ethan knelt down, opening his arms. "It's okay, buddy," he said gently. "I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." The boys looked at their mother, who nodded tearfully, slowly. They walked into Ethan's embrace. He wrapped his arms around them, feeling their small, warm bodies against him. His heart felt like it might burst with love, relief, and the ache of everything he'd missed. As the sun set behind them, they stood together on the porch, not yet a perfect family, but finally together, facing the future as one. After their emotional reunion, Ethan started spending every day with Emily and the twins. At first, Liam and Lucas were shy, unsure what to call him, but Ethan was patient, never forcing them, always smiling, always there. He helped them with their homework, even when he had no idea what their math problems meant. He took them to the park, pushing them on swings until they squealed with laughter. He taught them how to ride their bikes without training wheels, running alongside them until they felt brave enough to ride on their own. Each night he stayed for dinner, sitting at the small kitchen table with Emily and the boys. They told silly jokes, shared stories about their day, and argued about which superhero was the coolest. The house, once so quiet, now rang with laughter. One evening, Ethan tucked them into bed for the first time. He read them a bedtime story, his deep voice soothing. Liam reached out sleepily, grabbing his hand. "Daddy," he whispered, his eyes heavy with sleep. The word made Ethan's heart stop. He looked at Emily, who stood in the doorway with tears in her eyes. Nodding softly, Ethan smiled, blinking back tears of his own. "Yes, buddy," he answered gently. "Can you stay until we fall asleep?" Lucas asked, his small voice muffled by his blanket. "Of course," Ethan said. He sat on the edge of their bed, holding their tiny hands until their breathing slowed, and they drifted into peaceful dreams. After they fell asleep, Ethan stepped into the hallway where Emily waited. She looked at him with eyes full of gratitude and lingering sadness. "They love you," she whispered. Ethan shook his head slightly. "They don't even know me yet," he said softly. Emily placed her hand on his chest. "They know enough. They know you're kind. They know you make them feel safe." He took her hand, holding it tightly. "I don't just want to be part of their lives. Emily, I want to be part of yours too," he said, his voice low but sure. Emily hesitated, searching his eyes. Then slowly she nodded. They stood in the quiet hallway, the soft sounds of the boys sleeping drifting from the room behind them, a fragile but real hope growing between them. A few weeks passed, and everything began to feel different. Ethan no longer woke up alone in his cold penthouse. He woke up early so he could drive to Emily's small house, just to make the boys breakfast before school. Emily started to smile more, her eyes lighting up like they used to when they were young and in love. One Saturday, Ethan took them all to the city park. They spread out a picnic blanket under a big oak tree. The twins chased each other across the grass, their laughter echoing under the clear blue sky. Ethan and Emily sat together, watching them, the warmth of the sun on their faces. Ethan turned to Emily, his heart pounding. "I've missed too many moments with you," he said softly. "I don't want to miss any more." He stood up and reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as he sank to one knee in the soft grass. "Emily," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I loved you then, and I love you even more now. I want to spend every day with you and our boys. Will you marry me and let me make this family whole?" Tears streamed down Emily's cheeks. She looked at the boys, who had stopped running and were staring wide-eyed. Liam tugged at Lucas's sleeve. "Is he gonna be our daddy forever?" he whispered. Emily laughed through her tears and nodded. Yes, she whispered, her voice breaking with joy. Yes, Ethan, I want that more than anything. Cheers erupted from the twins as they ran to hug their parents. Ethan stood, pulling Emily into his arms, kissing her deeply as the boys wrapped around their legs, giggling. That evening, they returned home as a family. Ethan helped the boys brush their teeth and tucked them into bed, reading their favorite story until they drifted off. Then he joined Emily on the porch under the stars. They sat side by side, hands intertwined, their hearts full, for the first time in years. Everything felt right, the fear, the pain, the years they lost, it all melted away, replaced by hope and the promise of a life they would build together. Under the night sky, with the soft hum of crickets and the gentle breathing of their sleeping sons drifting through the open window, Ethan and Emily knew this was only the beginning of their true forever. The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, painting the room in soft gold. Ethan stood at the stove, flipping pancakes as the twins sat at the table, sleepily rubbing their eyes and giggling when he made the pancakes into silly shapes. Emily walked in, wearing one of Ethan's shirts over her pajamas, her hair messy but her smile brighter than ever. She wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. He turned and kissed her forehead, the kitchen filled with the smell of fresh coffee and laughter. "Good morning, Mrs. Cole," he teased softly. She laughed, her eyes shining. "Not yet," she whispered, "but soon." The boys cheered as Ethan set plates in front of them. The four of them sat together, sharing stories, dreams, and plans for the day. Outside, birds sang, and the world felt full of promise. As they finished breakfast, Ethan stood and raised his coffee mug. "To new beginnings," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Emily and the boys clinked their glasses of orange juice against his, their faces glowing with joy. Together, they knew they had finally found their home, not in a building, but in each other. Thank you for watching this unforgettable story of love, loss, and second chances. If this touched your heart, please hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that proves it's never too late for family or forgiveness. Share this video with someone who still believes in true love. And let us know in the comments, do you think everyone deserves a second chance?